All right, so our guest today is D. Watkins. How many of you have ever heard of D before? All right. If you know any writer in Baltimore, it would probably be D. His first book, The Beast Side, was a collection of essays about growing up on the east side of the city. We worked together back at City Paper with some of those essays. He then wrote a book called The Cook-Up, crack memoir, is that what the subtitle is? About during the late 90s and the early 2000s, working in the street pharmaceutical business here in Baltimore, and then going from there to college and discovering books. He wrote another book, We Speak for Ourselves. Basically, all of these have won numerous awards and stuff. And then most recently, not most recently, Black Boy Smile, a memoir about being married, having a daughter. It's just a really, really beautiful book. He co-wrote Carmelo Anthony, the basketball player's memoir. He just had a book come out, or is coming out like next week, about the Move bombing in Philadelphia in 1985, and also writes for HBO television. So all of those give us a wide range of questions to think about. So let's all give a big hand to D. Watkins. You want a chair?
It was fine.
So we want to talk about the way that you use questions in your work. And one of the things I forgot to mention is D also works at Salon.com, the website, and interviews. Who you interviewed two pretty big people this week, right?
A lot of people don't know Roy Wood Jr. or Alex Gibney, probably. Anybody watch The Sopranos?
Yes.
Actually, Gibney didn't do it. He made a film about the creation of The Sopranos. Roy Wood was a correspondent on The Daily Show for a long time, but he left because they didn't hire him. So he has his own CNN show. But I guess last week I interviewed Tyrese. I think people probably know Tyrese and shit. It's not that crying and shit. And I don't mind when people cry. I just don't want it to get on me. You know what I mean? Anybody have a crowd like next to you? You know what I'm saying? Like it's too intimate. And Andra Day. Andra Day played Billie Holiday. She played in the new movie The Deliverance. Yeah. So she just came to the studio and she was like just talking about they had a preacher on set because it's based on a true story. People were really, really scared on set. Glenn Close had to undergo like a major transformation to play like a white black lady. It was heavy for them. I interviewed her, which is interesting. Because I actually didn't like the movie. Huh? It was kind of boring. It's kind of cliche. It was just like, but it's also art, right? It's subjective. So it's like, do you go to like church or something? So maybe it was for like more of a, like a church crowd, I feel like. Like I have nothing against, I don't have anything against church, you know what I'm saying? But like, I don't like gospel music.
What? Like I go to church every Sunday, but gospel music, I don't know what that one.
So when you're interviewing somebody like that on camera, how is it different? How do you think about the questions you're going to ask differently than, because you also do interviews for print. How does the context in which you're talking to, and if you're talking to a famous person, how's that different than talking to someone on the street in Baltimore in terms of the questions you ask?
I think, celebrities are people to me. So if I'm profiling you, if I'm writing a profile on you, I'm going to do it with the same care that I would do if I'm writing an article on, I don't know, Dirk or Jay-Z or Barack Obama or somebody. I'm going to treat Dirk and Barack Obama the same way. You know what I'm saying? I try to think of things that other people won't ask. You know, a lot of times, so in print, and you know this from working in print, if it's online, you have the luxury of asking more questions because you're not worried about, you know, you got 1,000 words and then we out of here. I think at the website that I do a lot of these interviews on, you know, we get 20 to 25 minutes to talk to these people, whereas when they go on like Good Morning America, when they go on The Daily Show, when they go on some of these other outlets, they got like 5 to 7 minute slots. So you gotta sell your project in 5 to 7 minutes and then you out of there. Whereas we get 20 minutes, so we get a chance to unpack some of these things instead of rushing you to come up with your answers. So I think I try to utilize that luxury of time to get something more meaningful. And sometimes it works, and you know, and people look at it and they like it and they talk about it, and sometimes people ignore it, you know. So it's just the game.
And I mean, do you, when you say 20 minutes, is that you edit it down to 20 minutes, or you get 20 minutes with the person and then it's done?
I get 20 minutes and then they out of there. And a lot of times, you know, so Andrew Day's a good example. We went over with Andrew Day. So do you ever see Black Panther?
Yeah.
So I interviewed Ron Coogler. We went over with Ron Coogler because Ron Coogler, you know, is it was a good conversation. He had a lot of good stuff to talk about, right? Tyrese's interview ended up being an hour and 20 minutes, and we cut it down to 19 minutes because he was literally having breakdowns in the middle of the interview. Like, he was like singing, he was walking around, he was yelling at his manager, he kept talking about Chick-fil-A, like he was like crashing out in the middle of the interview, and I'm like, yo, I'm just trying to get him the fuck out of here, dog. Like, but you have to do the job, like you have to be professional. So like if it's like a woman in a studio, say if a woman just walk in the studio here, stop the interview and just start singing to her like memories, baby, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? And everybody just looking like, yo, his management team, they just looking like, yo, he really, you know, and I pull him aside and I'm like, bro, you ain't probably do all this shit on Good Morning America. You know what I'm saying? You getting there with them people, you probably ass kissing, dancing, all that shit. Just get through the fucking interview. Like, just get through it. You know what I mean? So, you know, we got through it, but that's a situation that should have been a good 20, 25 minutes. Ended up being a really long time. I just, you know, I know he got some mental stuff going on, and, you know, I pay attention to that. And I also know he was hungry, so I stopped. He had a little, like, chicken nuggets and french fries and shit, like my 4-year-old. You know what I'm saying? He had his nuggets and his fries and shit. Then he was good. Then he kind of got a chance to pull back a little bit, and we got through it. But I treat everybody the same because it's like, you know, personally, sometimes I feel like the better story is, you know, I want to hear somebody in the community talk about policing, racism, injustice more than I want to hear. I don't want to hear Lil Wayne talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I have no interest in Lil Wayne talking about, like, you know, what is happening, you know, because my experience with police is not what they were even 3, 4, 5 years ago. I used to see police officers every day of my life. I never see police anymore. Like, literally, when I see them, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, I mean, I got pulled over like a year ago, but other than that, like, I don't have any stories about what the fuck is happening in police because I never see them. Like, I live in you know, my community's gated. Nobody hang outside, so I don't really see them like that. So why would somebody want to hear about me talk about police, you know, and relations with black people if I don't see them. So I don't know if they still racist. They was racist when I used to see them. I don't know what the fuck they be doing now because I don't see them anymore. So if I'm asking, and I'm not a celebrity, so like a real celebrity, they only see them through the lens of probably security. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the people who, we did an event with Carmelo, and we did something in DC, and then we did something in Baltimore like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, right? And we had and I'm not a real celebrity, so I don't need security. Like, but because of he's this famous, you know, super rich NBA player, they hired security. Guess who was the whole security team? It was like D'Souza and like all these big fucking bodybuilded motherfuckers with church shoes on. And I'm looking like, yo, if shit get crazy, how they gonna fight for us with these fucking church shoes on? They gonna be slipping all over the floor. Like, what the fuck is gonna happen if somebody really tried to come and go crazy, because they had like soft loafers on. So like, I think I took a picture. Not even joking. Like, this was like a real concern of mine. This was like a real concern of mine. Hold on, because I sent the picture to the Mellow manager, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck is gonna happen if somebody, start feeling away? He said, what you talking about, champ? And I sent him the picture, and I said, look at this shit.
So notice what's happening there too is that as these
Yo, what the fuck excuse my language, man. What in the heck is supposed to happen if it got crazy? You see, I want you to have some Under Armour hikers on or something, like some Nike boots, but no air bubbles or something. My fault.
But notice what happened. He was at an event with, a major basketball player, a major star type of person, but his mind's still asking questions. Why do these security guys have on these shoes? Because that's asking questions is also the way we keep ourselves safe. If we're in a situation, we start asking, what's the way it shouldn't be here? What's going on? Like that. And we'll talk some more about that. But in your interviews, what makes a good question? What makes you think, what have you learned about asking questions in your time of doing this?
I think when you get people to talk about their why, beyond obviously monetary, beyond praise, but like, if you're like a sought after actor, right? And you got 50 scripts on your desk, but you choose this one. Well, let's get into why you chose that one. What do you think you can bring to it? Why did it speak to you in the way that other scripts didn't? And I think that translates to art. It translates to politics. It translates to everything. You didn't have to come to this college. You chose this college for a reason. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why you picked this school. So if I was interviewing you, I wouldn't only want to know about your time here, but I would want to know about what were your expectations coming in, where are you at right now, how did you get to that decision? I would like you to walk me through everything emotionally that has been happening to you from the time you made a decision to the time we're having a conversation. So I feel like when we get beyond the obvious, then you get into like, this will sound kind of corny, but it's like what we call a heat, right? Like if you're writing a book, right? Or you're writing an essay and you write for 10 pages, a lot of times your best stuff doesn't really come until like page 8. So you throw away you throw away everything before that, and you figure out a way to start at page 8 because that's where it gets good. So I try to go beyond the obvious. We know you're coming on the show because you want to promote a project. We know you do the project because you're making all kinds of money doing the project. We know you want awards. We know you want more fame. We know you want whatever, a bigger house and a bigger pool. We know you want these things. So how are we going to get beyond the obvious and then get into like, why we do this stuff? Because that's something that will change for the rest of your life. Any and every decision you make, at some point, you'll be happy with them, but a lot of these decisions you'll go back and you'll say, wow, I should have did something different. Because maybe who I was at that particular moment, I'm not that person now. And you'll continue to evolve and change.
Reading back on your own work, you mentioned how often, it's page 8 when the heat starts to come. What questions do you ask yourself when you're reading back over your own stuff to be able to tell if it's any good or not?
I'm so terrified to read my old stuff because some of it is just so bad to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult when you're like, you produce, I've written a lot in the last 10 years, a lot. We only see what's published, but if we just go off of what's published, over 700 articles at Salon, 8 books came out, which is like crazy. One screenplay came out, but that's, they don't count the pictures that we've co-wrote. That don't count articles in other magazines that I published. That don't count the marketing ad campaign I wrote for Under Armour. That don't count the marketing ad campaign I just wrote for New Balance. Like, it doesn't count like, the books that didn't make it or the screenplays that didn't make it. Like, I've written a lot. So when you write like that and you read a lot, you will get better. You'll get better and you'll get better and you'll get better. And as you get better, you look at your old stuff and you just like, and I see it, and I don't feel as crazy because when I read some of my favorite writers and I look at a book that they've written recently versus something they wrote 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I see, how they've grown as a person, how they've grown as an artist. And it becomes like, you go a little easier on yourself, but I'm scared to look at my old stuff because I think it's fucking terrible.
When you're in the middle of a piece, what do you ask yourself to tell if it's good or not? What goes on in your mind when you're trying to, it's not published yet and you're in the middle of writing and it's like, we ask ourselves or ask each other, is this working? Is that, because it's hard to see sometimes. What do you do to try to see your own work clearly?
I know it's good when I can't stay away from it and I can't stop picking at it. I know it's bad when I just want it away from me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a romantic relationship. If you want to keep calling this person, hanging out with this person, being around this person, then it might be, you might be laying the foundation for a good relationship. If you ducking this person and sending this person a voicemail and leaving a text on red, you probably should not be dealing with that person. If you see this person and they make you frown, then you probably, maybe you shouldn't date them, right? So I think for me it's good when I want to keep trying to make it better and keep trying to make it better. And a lot of times when I get to that point and I feel like I'm doing too much, I try to get fresh eyes on it to look at it. And everything, some things are really good. Some things are really good. Some things are not as good as I would like them to be, and then that's the business of it. The business of it is you don't have time to, I can't sit with a book for 10 years at this point in my career. Maybe if I wrote a book, that went crazy and that was all over the place and, that everybody would know, then a publisher might say, okay, you can sit for 10 years, but I can't, I don't have the luxury of sitting for 10 years. So when it's time for me to let a book go, I got to let it go.
So one of the ways that you really came up with a really unique and original voice, discovered your original voice, was, I think, asking questions that no one else was asking. I remember the first essay that he had that really went viral and that kicked his career off was called Too Poor for Pop Culture and was in Salon. It was a great essay. And it rose up, hey, Bahamas, can we tap him beside you?
Oh, you might be tired, man.
Yeah.
This guy probably takes 20 credits and works 4 jobs, taking care of 6 kids back home.
Hey, remember the one thing you can get an F is by disrespecting our guests. You can't do it. Gotta stay away. So,
sorry, not to change the topic. You have 2 water bottles?
One's coffee, one's water. Long day.
I know. I'm looking, and then I see pimp circle. So I'm like, 2 water bottles, pimp. Like, what's happening?
I have no idea what's this board. The people have used.
This isn't you.
No, I Gamma's not mine. None of that other writing's mine.
I was gonna ask if you taught pimp. That's why.
No, that's.
Did anybody ever read that book? Really? Oh, it might be the best memoir I've ever read. You wouldn't fall asleep. We was discussing pimp. You be standing on your chair right now, man. You be turned all the way up.
So, what were you thinking, like when you're writing that? And the thing was, it went viral that Obama did a selfie at Nelson Mandela's funeral. And if you remember, there was a bunch of outrage or a bunch of questions people were asking. And the questions were like, is it right to do that? What does it mean to take a selfie at a... But you asked a different question, and that's how you really broke out of the thousands of boring articles that no one will ever think about or talk about again that came out about that, whereas yours is now a real classic. So what did you ask about this that no one else was asking?
I think, so the article is called Too Poor for Pop Culture, and the article is It's all good. Does your watch ring that loud?
No, that's my phone.
Oh, I was going to say, I wonder, because I need to start wearing my Apple Watch. The article is called Two Poets of Pop Culture, and it's about how technology is class-based, right? So, like, you know, if you on phone, if you online tweeting about, you know, there's a protest, Black Lives Matter, something got shot, you know, being able to tweet at this is like 2014, you know, having a smartphone and being able to, like, you know, use it was kind of a luxury to a lot of people. I think the reason why that article resonated with some and was like fresh eyes to a whole other group of people was because I was not from the world of internet news articles. So I didn't understand how outlets cover. Like, I know now I could never write that article today because I understand how bullshit online journalism can be. I understand there's always an editor just on your neck asking you to write about something stupid for clicks. Like, you know, somebody's writing an article right now. Diddy got caught with 1,000 different types of baby oil and lubricants. Here are the brands, and this is how he organized them. Like, it's it's somebody writing that article right now because everybody's saying, yo, 1,000 bottles of baby oils and other lubricants. So they want to get, that's going to go to the algorithm is going to be pushing that out. So you'll see 50 think pieces on that. At this particular time, I wasn't reading articles every day, so I didn't know what people were talking about or why. So this was my journey into trying to learn that world, and I was appalled because I'm like, yo, the world is so messed up, and y'all talking about something stupid as like a selfie at a funeral. Like, it's literally, you know, somebody sitting across from me that don't have no, their son took all the hinges out the door and she got sheets hanging up. It's another dude in here that couldn't get a job and was in a bad situation because he got locked up for some shit that he didn't do. So it's like, it's people with real situations that at this particular time, and then I ain't had no money. So I'm like, yo, I'm trying to get paid, you know, and obviously I ain't get paid out the, you know, the article, they, you know, I think they paid me like $100 for the article. So that wasn't no money, but it's like, yo, it's people really going through it, you know, and y'all sitting here talking about this BS, and it's, you know, it's so much happening in the world. And I think people were so locked into this brand new performative type of care for people, for sexuality, for poverty, for what's happening in the world, you know, and this need for constant information on everything. Well, let's analyze the angle that Barack used to take the camera. Like, it was so much going on that if you're in the world, you know, I was like, it would be like an alien walking into this classroom. It's like, yo, what's happening? What are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I resonated. So, you know, I couldn't duplicate that if I tried because I know this world. I understand why it works. I get the mechanics. I can write the article on why he took the selfie. I'm on the other side of it now because I've been in this world for a decade, so I see it.
Wait, so you started writing articles first and then books, or books and articles?
I started writing a book, and my agent at the time could not sell the book. So she said, well, why don't you write an article so people can see your voice, you know, and that'll lead to a book deal. So I said, okay. And I sat down and wrote an article. And then from the article, I got 2 book deals. Books came out like back to back, but I just started liking the medium of just writing articles so much that I just kept writing articles. I just never stopped.
And people usually publish articles before books, at least. You might try to start writing a novel or something before you, like early on, but it's just so, writing a book is so hard and daunting. And it's like everyone runs a 5K before they run a marathon because you have to run the 5K as part of the marathon and just do that a bunch of times. And so generally, and it's a lot easier to get someone to agree to publish an article too than it is a book because they have to put so much money and stuff into that. That was perfect though, because I was going to call, before we move on to a different little part of C's career, I was going to call for some more questions. So let's hit them up.
Well, I guess, I don't know, in the beginning, both of you guys said print, and I'm not familiar with the word print. Is that meaning
like a magazine or a
oh,
newspaper.
like okay?
I mean, the print is kind of dying off.
But
Oh,
it can mean online as well, but written journalism or articles rather than a lot of his interviews for Salon or videos.
all videos or Q&As, but you'll never be able to pick it up in a magazine. It's an online magazine. So like if you're writing for an actual paper, you might say, okay, I want you to turn this story around, and you can't go over 800 words because we got to fit another article here and an ad right here and something else right here. Then there's a margin, then there's this, whatever. So you're going to be tight on that 800 words. Whereas online, if I say I want something 800 words and you pass it in 1,200 words, I might still say, okay, this is really good. We can run with it because it's online.
Yeah, so I used to edit City Paper, and we were about 88 pages every week. And there were a certain number of ads that were sold, and that determined how many pages we could be. So Friday afternoon, they'd say 88 or 94 or whatever the number of pages were out on this big intercom. And that meant we either had to come up with new stories real quick or we had to scrap stories because depending on the number of pages, because there was a certain amount of real estate that we had to take up, and we couldn't take more and we couldn't take less based on the way that we made our money. And so, yeah, that was the thing with print that doesn't quite exist anymore. I mean, it does exist in some places, in the big magazines, and the Baltimore Beat is in print, and the Baltimore Sun is still for a little while in print, but it's quickly.
Oh, is the Sun going to go online?
Yeah.
Okay.
His business model is to invent the iPad. Essentially, he's like, imagine if you had a tablet and you could watch the Fox 45 on it and read the Baltimore Sun, what would you have? And one of the Sun reporters was like, a phone? He's like, no, it's a new device. And he thinks he's going to invent the pad.
A phone?
Yeah. So
that's funny.
But yeah, he's going to get rid of the print eventually. He didn't say when.
It's so thin. The Baltimore Sun is thin. Like, I was shocked when I saw it the other day. I'm like, yo, this is literally like it's like this thin. I'm like, because the Sun used to be, you can't even eat crabs with the Sun. You got to get like 8 of them. You got to get like 8 of them to lay across your table because it's so thin, It changed. Times change.
Another couple questions.
I know you said earlier on that you had projects where it was like you were either really into them or you felt like you had to it was just done with, it was nothing else to do. Has there ever been a project where it's in between, it's bad, but as you're working on another story, an idea for the old story pops up and you go back to it?
So I don't think I ever really put out anything that I thought was bad in the moment. In the moment, you know what I'm saying? In the moment, I thought it was good, but I definitely, I've thrown away thousands of pages, but I don't throw them away. I put them in a folder because I might like the idea, and I bring the idea back in something else later on if it works. But I try not to ever force it. Sometimes stuff just don't work, even if it feels like you should really go with something. Sometimes, and your editor knows, and the people who have been looking at the work knows, and sometimes, so you don't have to somebody asked me that the other day, you don't have to if you write a book that's 80,000 words and it gets cut down to 60, you don't have to, throw away those 20,000 words. Maybe they're for a different project. Maybe you can take some of them, maybe you're writing nonfiction and you can take some of that nonfiction and apply it to a novel, and it might fit another character or something like that. The Cook-Up was maybe one of the most ridiculous books ever passed in to an editor ever, because it's I think I passed in something crazy, 120,000 words, and that book is 60,000 words. So a lot of that book is sitting. A lot of it was stuff, it was too hard to follow the characters because I wasn't skilled enough as a writer at the time. I think I could probably pull it off now, but at the time, there's this dude named James McBride who wrote this book called Deacon King Kong. Deacon King Kong has so many characters, and it works. My book had a lot of characters, and it wasn't fiction; it was real life. But it was when you growing up in a spot like I grew up, you know, and you got 60 people that you locked in with loosely, and some of y'all tight and some of y'all loose. It's not crazy to turn 20 years old and that's 60 people in the turn then are like 12. You know what I'm saying? So that was, and this is my editor is like a white lady from Connecticut. So the way I was writing about death was like overwhelming her. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then some of the death was some stuff that I knew about. It couldn't really be in the book because like statute of limitations and stuff like that. So it's like you're not trying to create like a indictment guide. You're not trying to create like an indictment guide, but at the same time, you know, how you see and feel about a story might not be clear to the collective, and you want it to be clear to the collective. So you have to put your own ego aside and make the decision for the collective because you want the collective to be able to understand the project. So that was that. So you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was you kind of like answered it a little bit. I was just gonna say like, you said some projects weren't like that great if you look in the past or whatever. So like, what would be your target? Was like, why do you write? Like, what is your goal? Like, what do you write for like entertainment?
Great question.
So if I said I wrote for entertainment now, I would be lying because it's my job. Like it's literally my